Alison Moyet is our most reluctant queen. Unlike Annie Lennox, she was almost crushed by the music industry. Alison's voice always stood out, but being fashioned into a pop star nearly destroyed her.
She wasn't prepared for how bullish the industry was going to be, how they would treat her like a product rather than a person.
I know she gets a bit insecure sometimes with her singing, but to me, she's no need to, because she's really a natural-born singer.
The natural-born singer may have struggled with her career, but the public didn't know. We just heard a voice like no other.
I can't believe that A, she isn't queen of our country, and B, that she isn't hailed as, well, I would say the greatest female voice that's come out of this country ever.
Alison started her singing career in a punk band called The Vandals in her hometown of Basildon.
As I hit teens was when punk came in and when we were all a little bit disaffected. I was a misfit and I was a loner. We had rooms and we could form bands, and it was very incestuous, and we all did that.
Alison had a nickname. We all had nicknames, actually, in the band. But her nickname was Alf.
I didn't have girly attributes. I was built. I always had practical haircuts, and it was just a bit rough.
I thought Alison was like a Butch Dyke.
I was the kind of girl that my friends' parents, in the most, didn't really want their daughters to associate with.
Another band from her presumably shocked Basildon school was Depeche Mode, featuring Vince Clarke on keyboards. When Vince stormed out of the Mode, he got in touch with Alison because he loved her voice.
Gutsy, incredibly soulful, emotional, powerful.
He had this demo that he'd like me to sing on, and would I go around to his flat, and I got on my motorbike at the time, and I went round there, and he played me Only You.
From bedroom demo to number 2 in the charts in under a month, Only You put a 20-year-old girl called Alf on top of the pops.
That's Vince and Alf and Only You. Here are Yazoo, and it's a great hit record too.
Came back only yesterday. I'm moving farther away. Want you near me? All I needed was the love you gave. All I needed for another day. And all I ever knew. Only you.
You had this kind of soul diva and this kind of techno whiz kid.
When it's only a game, and I need you.
There was just something about her that was a bit mysterious, and there's something very seductive about that.
But Yazoo wasn't so much an institution, more temporary accommodation.
It was just like these two strangers that had met on a train that were kind of looking at each other a bit bemused. You know, it's like you and I are eternally linked. Who are you?
2 albums, 3 singles, and that was it. Yazoo split in 1983.
Yazoo split up because in 18 months we recorded 2 albums, did 1 tour, and never took the time to get to know each other.
But even though Vince Clarke had been a mere acquaintance, he had been a very useful one.
The problem that had happened with Yazoo is that when I started working with Vincent, the record company was already his, the contacts were already his. So when we split up, I was completely on my own.
Alison may have been on her own, but she was also definitely in demand.
There was a big bidding war going on for me. There were 4 or 5 of the major record companies. They were all after me. They all wanted to get me to sign.
I got my accountant and my solicitor, and we went around the different record labels and saw what different people had to offer.
And so what was the outcome of that?
I ended up signing to CBS.
When you get a £1 million record deal, it comes with certain things. Pressure, expectation, and the producers behind Spandau Ballet and Bananarama, Tony Swain and Steve Jolly. And they in turn came with something else. Doubt.
So true.
She was very punky looking, in her appearance. So actually her appearance didn't cross over that neatly to what we were now doing with her. What we were doing with her was very slick, very, very produced, very polished.
What can I do to make light of this dull day?
I think when she was working with Swain and Jolly, they tried to kind of make her into a pop princess, really.
Her videos got more expensive in that fashionably 80s way, with exotic locations and added camels. Now she was on a big record label, Alison's image became an issue, and a Bedouin get-up wasn't the answer.
The press made some adverse comments about her appearance, and I don't think that was justified at all.
I know there is this kind of perception that she is outside of the norm for women in her industry. But the fact is, she's amazingly attractive. Personally, I think her size, if you like, adds to that.
It becomes a word. It's just very descriptive to me. If someone says you're fat, it's like, yeah.
Only halfway through making Alf, her first album, the record company dropped a bombshell. They wanted it rushed out for Christmas in 2 weeks.
We'd done 9 tracks and the record company wouldn't wait for it anymore, so they took it away and put it out, and it went triple platinum in England, and, I was the biggest selling female singer that year, and it was massive.
Quite simply, I'd like to say this makes me feel very chipper. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Alison didn't like that album, I don't think, because she was being pushed in a direction, I think, that she didn't want to go into. But, at the end of the day, there are great songs on that record.
I think I ended up having problems with that record more to do with the fact of what it did to my life as opposed to the record itself.
What I did notice about Alison was that she retreated more and more into her home and into herself.
I went from being quite a comfortable dark person to being an uncomfortable dark person, and that kind of reverted into agoraphobia for a while. I finally moved out when the milkman started turning up at 7 o'clock in the morning, bringing kids with him, saying, "Go on, tell him who you are, tell him who you are."
Early morning gorpers seemed the worst of it, until she looked at her record contract.
It was mental. The first period was for 4 albums, but then they had another 3 periods they could take up, so they could end up having something like 13 albums in total, and I wasn't allowed to get out of that, but they could drop me for 50 quid.
We always talked about the kind of problems she had with various parts of her industry, and because I didn't know anything about that industry, I was just gobsmacked at how she was kind of abused, really.
You're 21 and you're naive and you believe people when they say they love you and they're never going to rip you off.
With a #1 pop album, Alison's record company certainly loved her and wanted another one just like it straight away. Alison, however, was a stroppy old punk and gave them a slow, sultry cover of a Billie Holiday single instead.
It's that old devil called love again.
I was quite surprised when Old Devil Called Love came out, because this was a sudden sort of shift to Alison Moyet, jazz artist.
Bit of a departure from the stuff you've been doing. Are you are you a blues evangelist now, Alison?
Well, it's a departure from the stuff I've recorded. I mean, but that's my recording career has only spanned over 2 years, and I've actually been singing for about 8 or 9. So I just like doing all sorts of things. The general populace weren't aware of Billie Holiday. It was a left field thing to do, It just so happened the record came out and it was massive.
Old Devil Called Love went in at #2. Love Letters, another cover, did the same.
Love letters straight from your heart.
Alison Moyet was starting to have an accidental career as a covers artist.
I don't blame the record company for wanting me to carry on doing the same thing. It's just I didn't have it in me.
Should I feel that it's over?
The next decade was spent first in struggle, then in litigation with her record company. Despite #1 albums and Grammy nominations, Moyet was effectively fired from her own career. It was 2 years into the new century before she regained control, with Home Time in 2002 and The Turn in 2007.
I think they're my two high points in my career. Although, unfortunately, they're never associated with your, your high points always seem to be your money years, and that's not the way I see it at all. If I'd have had to stop after my money years, I'd have been very sad.